How are you guys feeling? I hope you're feeling good. I hope you smiled a lot so far today. And if you haven't, you're tuned in to the Woman Who Wore IGTV series, so you're definitely going to smile a lot today, honey, because that's what we do on this series. We uplift, we inspire, we feel motivated. Thank you. I'm in love with these earrings, too. I've been dying to wear them, and I got them right before this episode. And now I have the opportune time to wear them. And I'm about to invite in Cara, the guest of today at the Champagne Diet. So let me just tap on this to bring her in because it is a celebration. Okay, here we go. Okay, she's about to come in. It's about to be a party with Cara, who I love. There she is. What's up, gorgeous? How are you?
What's up? How are you, babe?
I'm feeling good. You know, I finally got a chance to put on these earrings that I actually got at the summit. I've been dying to put them on. And I'm like, you know what? I'm talking to Cara today. Today's the perfect day to do it.
Yes, exactly. Although I'm in a sweatshirt, but I'm just like rocking the kind of like casual, like athleisure vibe right now. I'm like,
that is the vibe. That is the vibe. Seriously, up here might look together, but down there it's definitely bum station, okay? I just felt like putting my hair up today and putting these earrings on because I was just like, I need.
You gotta go with it.
Exactly. And guess what else I have for our conversation? Because I was like, all right, there is no way I'm going to have the conversation. Girl. Okay?
The bottle. Oh my God. I feel like I have to go get the rest.
All right. We're going to chug it up today. Okay. We're going to chug it. Let me pour my glass. All right.
Just go straight out of the bottle for tonight. Like, this is kind of the vibe. Like, anything goes. I'm sort of like loving this right now because.
Yeah, exactly. Because we don't
it's not going to last.
Get drunk up or anything. All right. I'm about to pop it. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Okay.
Best sounds ever.
All right, let me pour me some. Shout out to everybody on the live here. Let me pour. My nails look crazy. Please don't judge me. Okay.
Oops. You see what I'm working with? I look like I can't even. I've never done my own nails. I'm like the worst. I think last time I did my nails, I was like 5 years old. You should have seen me with like the cuticle pusher. I like was ordering it on Amazon. I'm like, I don't even know what this shit is. Like,
come and get it. Yeah, no, I'm too ashamed to even show you my nails because this is why I get my nails done. Because I'm a nail biter.
Me too.
I have nubs right now. I'm nubs disgusting. Like, it's not cute at all.
I know.
So I'll spare everyone on here. So yeah, I'm really feeling it because exactly how I feel is what you see on my hands.
You know, it's the anxiety. It's like
exactly. So I'm just like, da, 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 da. I'm like chomping away like a beast. So I'll spare everyone. But cheers to you, darling. Cheers.
Yes, cheers. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me and just for always being available to show up for women. I think that is why you have an incredible tribe. That is why they go hard for you. And that is why they always come out to support you because you are always about making sure that that women are set up for success. So I want to get right into it because I have all these questions that I want to ask you. And for those who don't know, Cara did speak at the Female Collaborative's Women Who Wore Summit the first weekend in March. Can you believe? Like feels like yesterday, but it also feels a long time ago.
It's so weird to me because I'm like, wait a second, like we were allowed out back then? Like we actually were allowed out of our houses, but like we were and it was okay. And then everything just like blew up so quickly. It's just wild.
So wild. And I'm just really thankful we were able to actually even have the event because right after is when it officially kicked off, the real madness.
Like days later.
We had to cancel if that
I know.
Happened, so I got to interview you at the summit. So I know there's a lot of ladies who were at the summit that's on right now. So I don't want to try to repeat too much. I want to talk about some other stuff. So the first question that I have for you, and it's so funny because, you know, the last advertisement that I did for our talk, I put, you've got 24 hours, champagne diet. And then you put up that fun fact about how you created your blog in 2008. And then a year later, that song came out. So I was like, you know what? I need to ask her, where did the name come from? You know, the Champagne Diet, where did it come from? How did you choose that name and where it's taking you?
Okay, I love the question. And I always like say that to people because everyone assumes, especially in the beginning when the song was first like popular, everybody assumed that I got that idea from the song, but I didn't. So it's a very long story. It goes back 12 years. So 2008, I was working a full-time job. I was at MTV and I was working in digital advertising, just like really unfulfilled. I was really good at what I did. I was making good money for a 28-year-old at the time, well, 26 really when I started. And I had a team under me and I was doing well. And I had the whole like golden handcuff thing, right? Like you get kind of stuck in this career and you're like, I guess this is just what I'm supposed to do. Like I'm good at it, making money, right? And I love my mom. She's amazing. But my mom was not a risk taker. She's a single mom. So she was like, get a good job, stay there, don't leave. So here I am in this position and I'm like, oh God, this fucking sucks. Like I have to get out of here. I have to do something different. And I was kind of like in a low point. I was in a really toxic relationship with like a guy that I had been with in all of my 20s. And I was like, just feeling like crap. I had gained all this weight. You know how it is when you're working full time, you're in a cubicle all day. And I just didn't feel like myself. And I turned to one of my coworkers who I love. I still talk to her to this day. She's a doll. Her name's Lauren. She's Israeli. And this girl's like gorgeous. Like she had like a hot body and she was super healthy and she's like radiated like health and this glow. And I looked at her and we were like besties. And I said to her, I'm going on a diet this weekend. I can't take this. I have to change my life. Like I'm just, if I lose 10 pounds, everything will be like better. And she looked at me and she was like, oh my God, Cara, you're always on a diet. Like just cut it out. Just start eating healthy. And I'm like, okay, like what does that actually mean? And, you know, she kind of like talked to me about eating whole foods and organic. And this was like before it was trendy, you know, like now it's more popular, very plant-based. And I said, okay, fine, I'll do your thing. I'll eat healthy. But like, can I still drink? Because I'm not.
That is the main question.
That's the main question, right? I was like, can a girl have a drink? And she goes, yeah, of course, just drink champagne. And she said it like so matter of fact, like, duh, like what else would you drink? So I'm like, well, why? Like I never drank champagne. Like it was just not I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. Like no one in my family was drinking champagne. Right. She's like, Cara, it's like 100 calories in a glass. Like it's the lightest thing you can drink. Wine has more calories than champagne. Beer has more. Beer has more calories than champagne. Cocktails, forget it. I love a spicy margarita, but you're looking at like 500 calories. So I was like, okay, I'm sold. I started drinking champagne. I would go out with my friends. We'd go to like these dive bars in Times Square where I worked, and I'd be ordering champagne at the bar, and the bartender would be like, okay, whatever. They'd pull out some dusty bottle, and it became a joke. And I started saying like, I'm on the champagne diet. And I just made it up off the top of my head. And it was very tongue in cheek, you know, so that's where the name came from. But I quickly noticed it wasn't just about champagne. It was about this whole metamorphosis, because tell me when you hold a glass of champagne, you don't feel fancy as fuck. Super fancy. Right? You're like, oh my God, like I feel so glamorous. I feel so amazing. So for me, it was like, it was embodying this whole thing that I wasn't feeling in my life. And I was feeling really blah at the time. And I was like, I need this. This is like sparkly. It's effervescent. And that's my tagline, live your most effervescent life. So that's where that came from. I don't know, maybe Greg saw it on Twitter. I have no idea.
Interesting. You know that pep talk that you were giving yourself is, if I could just lose 10 pounds, life would just be grand. I swear to you, I have that pep talk every morning in the mirror.
We all do. Everybody.
Just lose 10 pounds and you'll be great.
Tell me one person, especially now in quarantine season, that doesn't feel like, oh God, I'm eating everything in my house. But listen, life goes in waves, and you just have to flow with it and do the best that you can every day. And this is an unprecedented time. So I'm not being hard on myself right now at all.
Yeah, definitely. So when did you decide that the blog was going to be your thing?
Okay, so I was always a writer, and I was always looking for creative outlets. So while I was at MTV, I had a dream that I had really like a passion project that I had started in high school. So for years, I thought I was going to be a music journalist. Like I was like, I want to write for Rolling Stone back when it was a thing. And, you know, I actually contacted MTV News when I was working there, and I actually started writing for MTV News. They couldn't pay me because I was an employee. So I just wrote for free. You know how it is when you're hustling, you'll do whatever it takes to get your name out there. And I would wake up early in the morning and I would like write articles from my computer at home, my laptop, on my lunch break. Actually, they sent me to the VMAs to go be a reporter, and I like did all this stuff on the side. So writing was always a passion for me. And when I started my champagne diet, I was like, I'm on to something here. Like, I feel like girls need to hear this, because I felt like it was the tone of my writing has always had a very sassy, like Sex and the City feeling, but I wasn't talking about relationships and sex. I was talking about like what I didn't know at the time, what everyone now calls personal development. you know, and I was kind of like, I had read The Secret for the first time. Like I was just getting into the law of attraction. And this is 12 years ago. So it was a lot, there was no Instagram. It was a lot less popular, but I felt like I wanted to kind of like be this voice for women who were really working on themselves at any age, especially in their 20s, especially women who loved fashion and things that I could relate to. Because I was seeing things like, no shade or offense to Tony Robbins, but like I didn't identify with people like that.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't connecting with that. I'm like, I need to become this voice for my generation, women like me. Like, you know, I'm from Brooklyn. I grew up like in a certain energy. Yeah, and like I'm like, there's no one like me out there that's talking about what it looks like to change your life. So that's where the whole blog idea came from. And I was like, this is just going to be an outlet. It's just going to be a creative outlet for me. I did not have any clue what it was going to become. I knew in my head I wanted to write a book, but I'm like, no one's going to read my book if I don't have a platform. So that's really kind of why I started the blog.
Got it. So you mentioned Sex in the City. And so I had to ask, who on Sex in the City were you? Because, you know, all of us were one of them.
Okay.
So who did you see yourself in the most?
I saw myself as Carrie, but now I feel like Miranda.
I feel like different phases of our lives,
I don't want to be Miranda.
We turn into one of them. Yeah,
totally. Like I've had my Samantha moments for sure. I was never Charlotte, never. I was never like goody two shoes. I would love to say I'm Carrie, but sometimes I feel like Miranda, and I'm like, oh God, I'm so jaded. Like I need my Carrie back. I need to feel
I hear you.
What about you?
Shout out to all the ladies in here. Hi, Jess. Hi, everybody.
Jess.
Hi, Jackie. Write down who you were in Sex in the City. I want to see if we could get like a poll going. Ladies, who did you identify with most from that
And
show?
who are you right now, right?
Like, yes, and who are you right now?
Are you Samantha in quarantine? Because if so, I need like...
Oh my God, girl. Samantha in quarantine is struggling. Well, not so much. She probably had like a whole drawer of goodies to hold her down. For sure. But she probably would have figured it out some way. Like they had to like totally, you know, desanitize their whole lives before they stepped into her place. But she probably still figured out a way. That is so funny. So I thought I was a Samantha. I felt like I saw myself in each of them for sure. A lot of people are saying Carrie, Miranda, Samantha, then Miranda now. Yeah, I think a lot of us in our younger days probably identified most as Samantha. And now we bossed up and now we feel like Miranda.
Now I'm like the jaded attorney.
Yeah, Jess said she's definitely Miranda in front of the TV eating pasta. Miranda would always eat Chinese food. Remember how the Chinese food store knew her name?
Yes.
She would call so much.
Well, I felt like her the other night. Are you ready for this? I threw out cookies. I had Tate's cookies, which by the way are so good. They should sponsor me. Actually, they shouldn't sponsor me. But I've been eating Tate's cookies like it's my job, and I actually crumbled them up and threw them away. And I was like, oh my God, I kind of want to take them out of the garbage. I'm like,
oh my God,
I'm a random
done that before.
And she took the cake out of the garbage.
Listen, man. Listen. We've all done it. We've all done it for sure. Hold on. Honey, bring back the champagne. All right. So my next question for you is I want to know, how did you know that you wanted to become a coach? Like, what was that calling? Like, was it always in you? Did something go off? Did something happen? Like, how did you know you wanted to coach people?
Okay, so it's a weird story with coaching. Like, I knew I wanted to connect with women. Like, I had this dream of writing this book, right? But while I was blogging, I was experiencing, oh God, I'm going to have to like go get some more soon because I'm already like halfway through the class. I feel like we have a lot to talk about.
Cheers. Okay.
Yes. Cheers. So like I was writing my blog and I was connecting with women, and at the time there was just Twitter and Facebook. So I was like really into Twitter at the moment. It was like picture like 08, 09.
Yeah.
And all these women like
back then. Yeah.
Yeah, like people would like mention me, DM me, whatever, and like they were sharing their stories with me. They're like, oh my God, whatever, you wrote last week really resonated. Here's what I went through. And I was feeling this connection, but I knew like I wanted it to be more than just writing. Cause like I didn't want to just like, when you're a writer, you just sort of like put it out there and it kind of exists, right? But I wanted to help people. And I found myself giving all this advice and sort of like being this ear for women and like this cheerleader. And I was like, how can I turn this into a job? Like, how can this become an actual career for me? I was becoming more and more unhappy at MTV. I loved being creative. I loved having a purpose in life. And one day, I kid you not, I was in the shower and I was like, I need to become a life coach.
Best ideas in the shower.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from. I'd never heard of life coaching really. I mean, somewhere in the back of my mind, I heard of it, but like I think I had kind of toyed with the idea. So I dropped out of college. I'm always like honest about that. I went to Hunter. I was there for 3 years, and I had more interest in interning and working, and like than I did in finishing school. Like it just wasn't working for me at the moment. So I went on. I interned at J Records, and then they hired me. So I left Hunter. So I thought for a minute, like, should I go back to school and become a psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever, therapist? But I'm like, no, I'm gonna have to go back and finish my undergrad, and then I'm gonna have to go and get my master's, and it just felt like it was too long of a path. So I learned that I could go to life coaching school, and I didn't need my undergrad degree, and I could get a specialization and a certification in that. So I went into work that day, and I just Googled life coaching schools. I told you this at Women Who Roar, like Google University. It's like the best college you can ever go to. Like just look stuff up. I didn't know anybody who was a life coach. I had no idea like what to do. But I cold called all these different schools, and I found one that would give me a payment plan that would let me like do it, you know, at night. I worked all day. I would go home and I would literally like get on the phone from 7 to 10 p.m. on this telecourse, and then I would do buddy coaching. And I did it. I became a coach. So I think for me, it was just like looking for a way to really truly connect with people and help people beyond my writing, like beyond my own thoughts. Like I wanted to then share my thoughts and share my own kind of viewpoint, but then help you work through whatever you're going through to get you to a better place. Because I remember in like my darkest days feeling like, wow, if there was just one person out there that could help me right now, like I felt like there was nobody. There was no one that I identified with that could help me go through those hard times. And I just felt like I wanted to be that person for other women.
So you mentioned something that I think is critical. So you said you didn't finish college and you decided to pursue something else, go outside the norm. And I think a lot of women right now, and a lot of us in general, are thinking about new lanes, are thinking about how they can reinvent themselves, and struggling with taking the risk, and really struggling with allowing fear to keep them from doing something that is not the norm that society would expect of you, like going to college. So how did you deal with perhaps some of that pressure? And what was your response if people asked you, like, you're not going to finish college? Like, what do you mean? Like, how did you manage that whole process?
You know, I've always been the kind of person who just did what I wanted to do. And I never really pulled people or asked people for their opinion. Like I was always very headstrong. Like if I had a vision for myself, I was really focused on it. Not to say that people's opinions don't get in my head and I don't have moments where I kind of like question myself, but I think I knew, like I just knew what was for me, and I really paid attention to my intuition. And I'm like, this is just not going to serve me. And I've had my moments, don't get me wrong. I've been in cocktail parties where people are like, oh, what sorority were you in? And what college did you graduate from? And I have had moments where I have like felt kind of like I've been comparing myself to other people, or maybe like I had a moment of like, oh God, are people going to take me seriously if I'm honest about this? But I had to get over it. And I had to be like, you know what? Not everybody has the inherent like talent that I have. And I know that I have something special to give this world. And maybe it's not as academic as certain people, but there is an intuitive, creative nature and a nurturing, like compassionate side of me that I think no matter how many degrees you have, like you can't study that, right? That's like you have it or you don't. So I think for a lot of people, whatever you want to do, if you have a talent, nothing can take that away from you, you know, and there's nothing that you can do. You can't study into becoming a talented person. So again, it's like, school's great. I'm not anti-education at all. I went to life coaching school. I got a master's certification in life coaching, and I will continue to study things that interest me. But I think the traditional model of like undergrad was just it just didn't vibe with me. It didn't make sense to me. And I had to really just kind of focus on my own vision. And I felt very alone for a long time. Like not everybody got it, you know, especially again, 12 years ago, before Instagram, before entrepreneurship was sexy. People were like, what are you actually doing? Like, you're thinking of leaving this job? Like, how can you, like, crazy? Like, people would tell me, like, you're insane. But, and I actually felt crazy. And I always tell people, if you feel crazy, you're on the right track. You know, if there's like, if you feel off, if no one gets you, you're probably onto something. Because I guarantee you a couple of years later, people are going to be like, wow, she did it. And that's always been my motivation, just to shock people and just to be like, yeah, I actually did it. I followed my heart. I believed in myself, and I did the thing that everybody thought I wasn't going to be able to do.
So first, shout out to all the ladies. I see them throwing hearts. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So get your champagne if you don't have one already, because we are talking to Hello Cara, the champagne captain. So permission granted. Go get yourself. How did you overcome that insecurity or that negative talk of like, are people going to accept me for me? Was it just time? Was it you just becoming whole with yourself? Like, what allowed you to get to that place?
You know, I mentioned earlier that I was in a relationship in my 20s, and I was with a guy from age 21 to 28. And that whole relationship was really emotionally toxic for me. And it was, you know, borderline abusive mentally. You know, there was like a lot of stuff that went on in that relationship. And I just remember the main thing was that I didn't feel like myself. And when I got out of that relationship, I felt so liberated and I felt so free. And I remember thinking I could do whatever I want now and no one is going to judge me. And that feeling stayed with me. And I'm like, I'm never going to allow anyone or anything to hold me down again. Like, I am never going to be under anybody's thumb. I am never going to be in a situation again where, you know, somebody makes me feel less than. Like, life is way too short. So I think growing and learning from that relationship was the biggest blessing. Like, being there, and even though I suffered a lot and it like really did a number on me, and I was in therapy for 5 years after that relationship, like going through that made me stronger. So I think to anybody listening right now that's going through a hard time, like, you just have to trust that it's like leading you to greatness. You have to trust that the pain you're feeling is going to turn into a purpose for you if you allow it to.
So do you believe that somebody needs to experience some type of trauma or something really dramatic in order for them to have this kind of zero F's given attitude and really live in their whole self?
I don't think they have to go through trauma, but I do think that becoming self-aware is key. So I think if you're aware of how you feel, right? Like, even right now, we're in this crazy pandemic. Everybody feels like the walls are closing in. People are filled with fear. They're filled with anxiety. Yeah, it's trauma, I guess you could say, right? We're all kind of experiencing this. But I think you have to be really cautious not to view yourself as a victim of anything. And that was something that I always like told myself. Like, you're not a victim of, you know, a deadbeat drug addict father. You're not a victim of a bad relationship. You're not a victim of growing up poor. Like, you are who you are. You're just self-aware enough to recognize all the things that have happened around you and realize like how you want to grow from it. Yeah. So I don't think you have to go through trauma. I just think that you have to be aware. And I think that you have to take everything that you've experienced. And if you want to grow and you want to turn that into something, just like figure out like, okay, what did this teach me? What were the lessons here? Like, how did I take this thing that happened that maybe was less than ideal and turn it into something that like worked for me that can then help other people?
Yeah. That's so powerful. I want everybody in here to write, I am not a victim, in the comments, because I think what we're going through right now, a lot of people, given their particular struggle, are feeling like, why is this happening to me? Why me? Why right now? And I think it's a mindset shift of us not thinking that the dark is never going to lead us to the light, because in order to get to the light, you have to go through the darkness, right? So I want everybody to write in here, I am not a victim, because I think that's super important, which leads me to my next question. Mindfulness. And how do you, and what does that mean to you? What does mindfulness mean to you? Let's start there.
Oh, such a good question. Mindfulness to me just means paying attention, you know, like really thinking about things before I do them. When it comes to anything, right? Like the way that I respond to something that's going on. So let's take this whole pandemic. It's a perfect example, right? Like, we can't ignore this. Yeah. So I'm trying to be mindful of the situation. And I actually said something to my friend the other day, and I was like, you know, I really don't want to miss any of this. Like, this is going to end, I think, actually sooner than we realize. I hope, God willing. But it's going to feel like it's going to go by really quickly. We feel like we're stuck right now, right? We're like, oh my God, there's never going to be an end. When am I ever going to be able to see my friends? It's going to end, and it's going to end pretty soon. I'm trying so hard to be mindful because we're witnessing history, and we're witnessing an opportunity to grow and really shift. And there is just something in, like, if we could all just really harness what's happening right now and be mindful of it and pay attention to what's important to you. Like, I'm sure everything in your life has been flipped upside down. I know mine has. All my values have changed. Everything. I'm looking at everything with a different set of eyes. And I'm like, wow. I walked into my bedroom last night and I'm like, what do these bags mean to me? What do these shoes mean to me? They really mean nothing, right? Like, all that matters to me is my health and my family's health and the people that I love. and that they're okay and that they're safe and that I have people around me that I love, and I can't wait to just sit down at a dinner table without my cell phone and like be with the people that I care about. So being mindful of that now in the moment, and then taking that a step further and being mindful of it when it happens, right? So when I actually do get to see everybody that I love, and when we do get to kind of go back to some kind of normal, staying mindful of how I feel now and relating it to how I'm going to feel then. What do I want to take away from this experience? Who do I want to become when this is all said and done? How do I want to grow? How do I want to level up and shift, right? Because we all have the opportunity to shift. So it's just really paying attention. That's all that it means to be mindful. It's just paying attention, and then also taking action on the things that we're observing. So like, if I'm like, okay, I have noticed that I really want to be closer to my friends and family, well, what is my action step going to look like when I can, right? Or what can I do now? Like, can I FaceTime somebody? Can I, like, my brother and I were on the phone last night for 3 hours. My brother and I never have phone conversations. We're usually face to face, you know, but like, we chatted on the phone, and like I was up later than I wanted to be, and I drank more wine than I wanted to, but we had like such a good conversation, and it was just such an opportunity to be like, wow, this is giving us a gift through all the tragedy and illness and death and pain and heartache that this is causing us. There's a huge gift within this, and I think if you're mindful enough, you will see that gift.
This is making me think. So one of my favorite artists, De La Vega, who's very popular in New York. I don't know if you know who he is, but one of his favorite quotes is, "Be mindful even if your mind is full."
I love
that. Be mindful even if your mind is full. And I think that is something we can all really take in and really digest, because right now our minds are super full, right? There's just so much going on, but be mindful of the uniqueness of this time and how we probably will never see this time again, at least in our generation, hopefully, right? And how are you taking advantage of that? And what I've been saying lately is, how are you leveling up for your post-pandemic come up, right? That's something that I've been saying. How are you going to level up now for your post-pandemic come up? Because every action that you take right now is going to really determine where you stand after this is all gone. And the world's going to keep moving. The world's going to keep going. So what are you going to do? And then this other quote that I've been sharing a lot is, don't quit, pivot. Right? So don't quit. Right now is the time to pivot, right? Right now, you said you're re-examining everything that you do, even to the things that are in your room, probably where they're positioned, why they're positioned that way. It's just making you be super critical of everything in your life right now. So it's an incredible time to like really cleanse and really figure out who you are and why you are and who you want to be going forward, which is something that we're being forced to do, that we've never had to be forced to do in this way before. So totally agree with you. That is an important time. Okay. So next question is, I wanted to talk a little bit about, because I believe I've heard you speak about this around addiction and around, you know, how you stopped drinking for a little bit and why you did that. I would love to talk about that with you.
So that goes back to mindfulness, right? I think we all have our vices. We all have things that we do that maybe we feel like are left unchecked. They become a negative habit. I love food. I love wine. I love all of those things. But I always do a reset with drinking. Obviously, I'm not doing it right now.
No, not now.
Not now. This is not the time. But I just think it's important to like check in with yourself every now and then. And I love to do like a dry January, or you know, I did like dry August last year, or I just check. It's just about checking in, even with food. So like what was happening to me over this whole, you know, crazy situation over the past few weeks, I noticed I was like snacking mindlessly, not mindfully, mindlessly eating.
Yeah.
And I had to really just check in and be like, okay, why are you reaching for the cookies every 5 minutes? Why are you reaching for wine at 12 o'clock in the afternoon? Like, it'll be there at 5. It'll be there at 6. Like, calm down, girl. It's not going anywhere. So I think like when it comes to anything that we sort of wind up depending on, I think there's always an emotional connection to it, right? It makes you feel safe. It makes you feel calm. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel grounded, right? Or you think it does, right? That's like the connection that you have to it. So for me, it's especially like my father was an addict. He was a drug addict, you know, so it's very top of mind for me to always be like in check with all of the things that I sort of tend to get obsessive about, or things that I love. And I think whether or not addiction runs in your family, it's so important to always check in with yourself and just be like, okay, why am I like going towards this, whether it's shopping, sex. I mean, there's so many different addictions. There's so many different vices that people have, smoking, you know, gambling, whatever that looks like for you. So I just think that it's just, again, it's a chance to be mindful, and it's a chance to really just ask yourself, like, what is the purpose here? If it's to have fun and to let loose, that's great. But if it ever becomes a problem for you where you're like, okay, this feels like it's a little bit too out of control, then I need to get a handle on it. I need to like set some boundaries for myself.
And do you have any like exercises people can do? It, I don't mean physical exercises, or maybe I do, like maybe that's one of the recommendations, but I mean like any type of, you know, things that they can do when they sense a trigger, like some type of trigger that's making them go towards this addiction. Because I think right now a lot of folks are going to come out of this with new addictions because there's so much time to now pick up new addictions and new things that we never did before. So what is some of your advice, tips, tricks that people should think about as it relates to picking up things that may not be healthy for us?
I think free writing and journaling is probably one of the most valuable tools that you can have. Just taking a notebook, like literally, like I have this notebook that just sits on my desk all day long with a pen. And whenever something happens like in my mind that I want to capture, I just write it down. So asking yourself, like, how does this feel for me, right? What am I gaining out of this? If you feel like you're overindulging in some area of your life, what was the goal, right? Why did you first pick up the 10th glass of wine or the chips or why did you text your ex, right? Like whatever it is that's coming up for you, like we all have those things, and just write about it without judgment. You know, I think that's the biggest thing. Like when we start to judge ourselves, everything feels, it just feels different. I think if we can sort of look at our behaviors and our actions from a place of love and realize like there's somebody in there that's hurting right now. There's a part of us that's hurting. There's a part of us that's broken. And I think realizing that we're all going through a challenging time right now, and it's okay. You have to give yourself some grace. So like taking a notebook, writing down, how is this making me feel? How did I feel after I did this thing that maybe triggered me, right? Was it smoking, you know, chain smoking that night? Or was it like eating the whole chocolate cake? Like whatever it was for you. And then what can I do differently next time around? You know, what would be a better behavior for me to take up? What would be something that would maybe make me feel a little bit better? Is it going for a run? Is it calling a friend? Is it listening to music? Is it taking a bath? You know, so just like being self-aware, being mindful, like you said earlier, and realizing that, you know, it's not bad, it's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with you if you fell into that bad habit again, but there's a way out of it. And I think the way out of it comes from just being aware enough to recognize why you're doing the thing that you're doing.
Definitely. So during this time, have you started a new routine? Have you been able to keep a routine? If so, what are some of your tips? Because I know for me, I'm struggling with keeping a routine because I've gotten it. Well, actually, I created a new routine, and the routine is I get up, I work, I eat, I work, I eat, I work, I eat, I work, go to sleep, and then do the same thing the next day. And it's been difficult for me to like really get into the routine of creating breaks because I'm home. Like that going outside was the break. So now I'm home. So what are some of your tips for folks who need a routine, or have you gotten into routine? And if so, how did you?
So I've been working from home for almost 6 years. So this quarantine doesn't feel that weird to me in that sense. Like this has been my life. The difference for me is that I can't see my friends and family. I can't go to restaurants. I can't go out. So for me, like, I think the biggest thing is recognizing when you feel on and when you feel most productive, because it's different for everybody. Right. So if you're a night owl, go and be a night owl. If you're an early bird, be an early bird. I happen to work best in the morning, so I know my schedule. If I'm going to bed between 10 and 11, I will wake up naturally without an alarm between 6 and 7. Between like 7 and 10, I work on the computer. And that's like what I do. I answer emails, I do all my admin stuff, I get in my Facebook groups, I talk to clients. Then I take a little break and I like to work out around 11 a.m. Then I have lunch. Like, so it's really just a flow that I've gotten into by becoming aware of like when I feel best. Right. I think the problem happens with the whole, like I have a kind of an issue with the whole morning routine conversation, only because I think there's so much pressure that's put on women to feel like, you know, you read articles and it's like, okay, I wake up at 4 a.m. and I make a smoothie with 23 ingredients. Right. I do Pilates and I take my children to French lessons and all before 8 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, that's great, but that's not going to work for everybody. So I think it's just about becoming aware of what works for you and really owning that. And I mean, now more than ever, you get to own your schedule, right? Like if you are a great writer at 2:00 in the morning, write at 2:00 in the morning. Like who's stopping you, you know?
Right.
So for me, it's getting up early, it's working, it's harnessing that creative energy, that productivity. The workout is super important to me. I haven't really been taking a lot of walks because it's really hard in the city to like social distance, but I do think I'm going to start walking earlier in the morning so that I can, you know, be outside in the fresh air, which I need and I crave, but not be around a lot of people. So like the highly trafficked times, especially here where I live, it's like, you know, maybe like 1 to 5. That's kind of when everybody decides to go out. So if I can go out at like 9 or 10, even for a half hour, that'll be a win for me. And then I think also like cues and rituals really help. So like, you know, when the sun starts to set, that's kind of when I start to make dinner. You know, I light the candles. I have a little candle lit over here in my apartment. I pour a glass of wine or I make a cup of tea. I take a bath. Like I do certain things that signal to me that the day is now going to start to wind down and I can shut the laptop. I can shut the computer. I don't have to check Instagram 1,000 times. And that's like my time for myself to restore. Because if you're not restoring your energy, you're going to burn out. And I have burnt out many times during this pandemic, this quarantine thing.
Same, girl.
Many
times.
times.
I was just like, last night, I was like, I'm so tired of being tired. Like,
I know.
all I'm doing is working.
I know.
Like, geez,
you have to build in breaks and you have to not feel guilty about it. Like I took a break on Thursday. I was supposed to do like a live coffee chat in my Facebook group. And I was like, girls, it's not happening today. Give me one day. I'll do it tomorrow. And like, they got it. Everybody understood.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a question that I ask all of my guests, and it is, why are you a woman who roars?
Ooh, I love that question. Because I don't give an F what anybody says, and I do what I want to do, and I don't ask for permission. I think that's like the biggest thing. I'm not afraid to speak out. Yes. I'm not afraid to speak up. If something isn't right, I will blow the whistle. If something doesn't feel good, I will be honest about it, and I will also speak up for other women. I think that's been like the biggest thing in my life. It's not just showing up for myself, but it's like if somebody else needs help, I'm going to show up for them and help them get the help that they need. So I think when I think of women who roar, I think of women who are just like, take it or leave it. This is who I am. I'm not afraid to set a boundary. I'm not afraid to speak my truth. I'm not afraid to stand up for other women because not everybody's at the place that you and I are at. And I wasn't at this place for a long time. So becoming like a beacon and becoming a support system for the women who can't speak up for themselves, I think is like probably one of the biggest gifts that I have at this point in my life.
Definitely. And let's take a minute to talk about your Style Your Mind Academy, because I think that is a great academy and something a lot of women can take advantage of. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's so funny. In January, like, so I'm an author and I've written 9 books now. And I have private clients and I do masterminds from time to time. But like late last year, I was thinking of like, what can I create for women that's like low cost but high value? Something that everybody can get involved with, something that women can feel connected to me through, right? An opportunity to do master classes, coaching programs, like a whole kind of network for women. So I came up with the idea for the Style Your Mind Academy. So my podcast is called Style Your Mind. The Academy is really an extension of that, but it's a community. So we have 515 women in the Academy as of today. It's $20 a month. So $19.99 a month, right? It's like a pedicure, like less than a pedicure in Manhattan.
Right.
Which we can't even get right now. So you might as well put them into personal development. Right?
Right, exactly.
But I do 2 live group coaching calls a month. I do a girls' night in now once a month. We had a blast a couple weeks ago. I have a private Facebook group. I do custom workbooks each month. I send tools out. I send like, you know, worksheets. Like it's just, I pour into these girls because I really wanted to create something that pretty much everybody could take part of. I totally get it's not for everybody. Oh, I see some comments. Some of my girls are on tonight. They're so excited to be here. I love them. It's just such a supportive group, and I'm so blessed that I have a large community where I really can create something that's low cost and really scale it. So for me, it's just an opportunity to continue to serve, and I'm in there every day, all day. All my girls can attest. I'm constantly talking to everybody and commenting and sharing. So if you want to join it, it's styleyourmindacademy.com. You can sign up, and I would love to have you guys. And Victoria, I'm going to send you a code because I want you to come in the group too.
Oh my God, yes.
So we'll get you in.
Thank you.
Yes.
VIP. But I wanted to ask you about Style Your Mind because I think it's an incredible program, but also to really highlight something important. So the Female Collaborative, right, which is my women's organization, a network of 2,000 women who are focused on revolutionizing how women work and do business together. We also have a membership. But I wanted to make sure to ask you this because I think it's really imperative for us as women to talk about, like, we can be in the same space and not try to step on each other in such a way where it creates unhealthy competition or it creates any type of competition, right? So the whole purpose of the Female Collab is about women collaborating and creating legacy together. And I'm having all these incredible women on the show and talking about some of them in the same spaces that the Female Collaborative is in. And I'm doing that purposely because I want to show that as women, especially right now, figure out how you can collaborate with other women and just create dope shit. Like right now, this is something dope. This is something magical. Like all these women in here, you know, shout out for the comments, but this is how it happens, right? You make the ask and you make something happen. And so don't be afraid to collaborate with other women. And I would love your thoughts on that because I wanted to make sure to make that point clear because this is why the Female Collab even exists is because we stand in each other's way for no reason at all. And there's just we could be so much more powerful if we collaborate. So can you speak on that?
Yes. Oh my God, I would love to. So in 2015, I wrote a book called Girl Code, which most people know me from. And the reason I wrote that book is because that's when I was first that's when I first left MTV. And all of a sudden I was in this world of entrepreneurship. And I was in all the Facebook groups and I was going to the events and no one knew who I was. I was pretty much brand new because I was still behind the scenes. I was still working full time. So I didn't have anything to like really show, right? I had the blog, but it was a slow burn. And I noticed that there were like two very distinct groups of women. There was this very small group of women who supported each other. And who were collaborating and who were helping each other like we're doing right now. But then the bulk of the women that I was meeting were cutthroat and nasty and just like gossipy and ripping each other apart and nobody wanted to help you. And I had so many experiences looking back where people just shut me down. Or I'd walk into an event and people would turn their back on me and completely ignore me. And it was so cliquish and I hated it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to create a vibe and I'm going to create an environment where everybody is welcome, where everybody can shine their light, where everybody can like put their talents into the world and feel like they matter. And that's why I wrote Girl Code. And I think that really was on the kind of the cusp of this whole movement of like women empowering women. And I just think when you are confident enough in yourself to know that you're going to bring something to the table that no one else can bring. Like you, Victoria, how you show up, no one can replicate that. Right? It's impossible. They're not you. How I show up, nobody can replicate that. Like we all are our own people. We're all our own selves. And I think no matter whatever you're talking about, there's a way to talk about it in a way that like nobody else will be able to do. So it's about kind of like getting in touch with who you are, again, being mindful, being intentional, and sharing your personal stories, being vulnerable. I think that's another part of it, right? Like being transparent and being willing to talk about the things that, you know, affect you. Like how does, you know, abundance mindset, I saw a comment kind of fly by about that. Like that's something I really believe in. Okay, I can tell you, yeah, it's great. You should have an abundance mindset, but why, right? So if I tell my story about why I feel abundant and you tell your story about why you feel abundant, they're going to be completely different stories. So if we can just be honest with ourselves and honest with each other and bring our own flair to the table, it makes sense. There's just room for everybody. So I really just want everybody to understand that like now more than ever, please know that your voice matters. I see so many women right now silencing themselves, afraid to sell their products or services or offerings because they're like, oh, but it's a crazy time in the world. Well, you know what? It's always going to be a crazy time in the world. If you're a businesswoman, you need to get out there and sell what you're doing because it's bringing value to the world. It's adding to people's lives. People will find a way to make it work for them if it's valuable enough and they can do it. And if they can't do it now, they're going to come back to you later. So, you know, show up. Like we have to show up. And I think if you shrink yourself as a woman, you're shrinking everyone around you. So when I shine, you shine. When you shine, I shine, right? We give each other permission. We have to just continue to do that. And I think if you look at it from that point of view, it changes everything.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, you know, when women find themselves in the same lane, they need to start thinking creatively, how can I collaborate with this woman to make money together? Because especially if you have similar audiences, like think about it. Instead of you competing against the same type of clientele, imagine if you guys actually collaborated and came up with something unique that you could present to both of your communities. you would make more money.
Yes. Yes.
If you do that, instead of trying to go against the competition, collaborate and team up and figure out how you can do more of that. Like, for example, Nike and Adidas sponsor the same type of events. They collaborate. Like, you see all these big brands doing it. So if they can do it, you can do it too, and figure out how you can personalize it to make it work for you, and stop looking as women as your competition and start looking as women as opportunity. Because when we collaborate, we actually are so powerful versus when we isolate ourselves. And that's what the Female Collab is all about. And that's why I wanted to make sure to have you on here and ask you that question, because I think too many people are misguided around that and don't see enough examples of it, which is why I wanted to make sure to have you on, and you know why the Female Collab exists, and why I love to just spotlight incredible women like yourself, because it's so important. Because when I win, you win. When you win, I win. And that's the mentality that all of us need to have. So shout out to everybody that's on here. They are loving this dialogue, which I knew that they would, because this is realness. This is the real. But we have this series going on now. Please make sure to tune in. I'm highlighting a whole bunch of dope ass amazing women such as Cara. So make sure to stay tuned. Cara, thank you so much for being on the series. I have always been a fan of yours. Love your energy. Love how you show up for women, and love how you really are about this life. You are not a gimmick. You are not out here like some of the people you see on Instagram selling a dream. You really put in the work and you really practice what you preach. So thank you so much. I love you so much for that. I look forward to joining the Academy and saying hey to all the ladies in there. And thank you so much, everybody who joined today's show. Stay tuned for more shows coming up every day. We have an interview dropping. So lots of content and knowledge coming your way. So stay tuned. Thank you so much, Cara. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you for having me. I love you so much, and I love you guys for joining.
You too, babe.
Thank you. Mwah.